Peace and Black Power family. It's your Harlem educator, author, and activist, the Black Liberation Coach, Brother Agyei Tyehimba. I wanted to, first of all, I am so happy that we are in February. Although I personally utilize our history, study our history just about every day of the year, I do think it's important to set aside special days or months to commemorate and to celebrate certain things. I don't think that's a problem. I don't think it has to be an either or. You know, when you do things like you have a special day to celebrate love, well, you should love people every day, obviously. But there's nothing wrong with having a special day set aside, right? There's nothing wrong with that, to focus on a certain thing. There's nothing wrong with that. We have to open our minds up, be a little more flexible, and stop being so rigid and so contrarian. You know, contrarians are people who, you say left, they say right. You say up, they say down. Not so much because they have a disagreement, but just because they want to disagree. So I want to talk about, I'm going to recall a story, something that happened in my life personally. And I have a bunch of stories like this. I believe during Black History Month, it's not just about big important people. It's not just about big cities or big movements. We have history in our lives. So I'm relating during Black History Month. I'm going to talk about my personal history because I think it's informative. Grand rising back to you, Haribu, Jama, peace and Black Power. I want to relate a story to you. I think that it's important you trust your instinct. That voice is there for a reason. Unless you're using, of course, a hallucinogenic drug. You may not want to trust your voice, but typically, assuming everything is right with you, to use your intuition, man, when you follow it, it helps. I want to talk about using your intuition, following it, and acting with confidence. Moving with urgency, acting with confidence. My brother Marcus Garvey, the Honorable Marcus Garvey, said, "He who has no confidence has lost twice in the race, has twice been defeated in the race of life." Confidence is important. So let me tell you the quick story and then I'm done. Also, I know a lot of y'all going to be caught up in the Super Bowl and all that. But remember, family, the Super Bowl is one day after year. We got to love each other, work with each other, be empathetic with each other, understand each other, right? Communicate with each other and build with each other every day. Don't let temporary things blind you to your permanent circumstances, right? All right. So back when I was at Cornell University, I was a graduate student studying for my master's degree, my first master's degree in Africana Studies. I was working with one of my main Jagners, Dr. James Turner, and I met a lot of wonderful people there. Brother Scott Brown, lifelong friend. A lot of good people. Anyway, I was in my second year. This is important because the second year is the year where we started the actual research and thesis writing. The first year was all classes and try to build relationships with different professors. But the second year was the year that you did all your real research and you wrote your thesis. It was a two-part piece. You couldn't just take classes and do well in class. You had to write that thesis and you had to defend that thesis, more importantly. You couldn't just write a thesis and submit it and it's all good. You had to sit in a room facing one or two of your professors, in a room full of community members with other professors in your department and other departments who are hitting you with a barrage of questions from A to Z based on what you studied, and you got to be able to respond to their questions in a scholarly manner based on the work you've done. This is to show and prove that you know what you say you know. That's why I like this idea of defending your thesis or defending your dissertation. In any event, at that point, I was married. I had a young family. My God, Nubia was probably about 5 years old. Zakia was like 1 year old, and I was running out of money because the money they gave me was an assistantship. They paid for my tuition, And they gave me money to live on, family, but that was like for me, not for a whole family, right? So that little $10,000 they gave me, that dried up quick back in 1995, 6, 7. That dried up quick. And I saw that this money was drying up. So I started trying to come up with ways to get money in to make sure that me and my family would be all right with this last year in the program approaching. So I just happened to be reading a paper, and I saw that a guy, a rich black man, we're talking about wealth for real. He's on the board of the New York Federal Reserve. He's the CFO of this huge bank and credit company. He has power, right? But back in the 60s, he was a student at Cornell. And not only was he a student at Cornell, he was a leader of their Afro-American society. And he was a radical leader. He actually smacked the president of Cornell University in the face. All right? This was a brother back in the 60s that wasn't taking no mess on behalf of black people. It so happened that after he graduated decades later, he turned his position around and he became conservative. And he changed his politics. And people started saying that this guy, he's an Uncle Tom. He's not, we don't trust him. But back when he was young, he was a radical black student leader at Cornell. So when I saw that this guy was coming to campus and that he was talking about giving all this money to our Africana Studies department to endow it, I said, wait a minute. I need to hit this brother up. He's rich. He used to be like me, radical black student leader. And even though his politics have changed, sounds like he wants to make peace with black people. Sounds like he wants to give money to the Africana Studies department. It sounds like he's trying to maybe repair his image, or maybe he's had a turn in his philosophy. Maybe he says, man, I need to get back to how I used to be. I don't know. But I had to really look at that very quickly. And my instinct said, man, I had deduced that I needed $15,000. $15,000 would cover all expenses, living expenses, whatever I needed. I did the math. So I said, man, this rich brother's coming up here who has a history here, who used to be a black radical student leader here, like I was at Syracuse. We got something in common. I'm going to hit this brother up and ask him if he got $15,000. Not a loan, family. A grant. $15,000 that I do not have to pay back. So now I share this. So what I did, right, I wrote up a letter, who I am, where I went to school. I'm talking about my grades. I showed my grades and yada, 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 to show who I was and that I was a serious brother. I was accomplishing things in life. That I wasn't just talking about what I wanted to do, but I was doing things so that he would see, okay, if I give this guy money, he's probably it'll be a good investment. I talked about my young family, my wife at the time, my two little kids, let them know that I had responsibilities. And then I also wanted to interview this brother because my thesis was talking about black students fighting for black studies departments in the 60s with a case study at what happened at Cornell. And he was a very vital part of the black students taking over the campus. They came out, you may recall the famous picture, they came out with guns, family. It was serious at Cornell in 69, family. It was going down. And everybody in the nation was like, wow, it's an Ivy League school. Black people are taking up guns. They're taking up guns because they took over a building to protest the burning of an all-black women's dorm called Wari House. It had been burned down by white racist students. They also took over this building to protest and demand a black studies department. So when a white fraternity heard about it, they threatened to come in with guns and kick the black students out. So that's a whole other story. But the point is, the brother that's coming back to Cornell, and this would have been about 1996, who's now a multi-millionaire, who's sitting on the boards of the Federal Reserve Bank in different states, family. the CFO of a huge bank and credit agency is coming. So I said, man, I'm going to hit this brother. I'm asking for $15,000, and I ain't feel bad, and I ain't feel beggarly or nothing. I felt like I paid my dues in different ways to our community, and this was a payment back. I'm asking for a payment back so I and my family could get through this graduate school, program. Well, I wrote my little proposal. I had a little folder. I put the proposal on one side. I talked about myself and my family and what I wanted to do with the money. And on the other side, I had a request. I wanted to interview him for my thesis, right? Once in a lifetime to be able to interview somebody who was a leader of the movement that you're writing about in your thesis research. Of course, I asked him for an interview, right? Now, it so happened that we had some friends coming up for that day. And so I went to the, department the day that he was scheduled to come. I waited. I timed it so that I would be there not long after his meeting was done. I caught him coming out. I said, "Hey, Mr. Jones, how you doing, sir? My name is Agyei Tyehimba, da 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 da. I know you're busy. I don't know how long you're going to be here in Ithaca, New York, which is where Cornell University is located. But I have a proposal I'd like you to look at. One side is making an ask, and the other side is asking you for your time so that I can interview you for my research." He said, "Okay, young man, I'll read through it, and I promise that you have contact information." I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I promise you I'll read it and I'll get back to you." I said, "Okay, sir, thank you." And I left, right? Now, before I did that, the key thing was my instinct told me to do this. Something said, "Yo, ask him for the money." Straight up, I'm serious. And the second thing was I moved on it with deliberate speed. I didn't doubt it. I didn't hem and haw. I didn't ask a whole bunch of, I moved on. I had my proposal in the folder. I went to him, gave it. Now, of course, I spoke to my mother, a very spiritual woman. God bless my mother, still alive, going strong in her 80s, Harlem queen. And my mother, who always has my back, who's never let me down, never left me stranded or hanging, said, "Oh, baby, good luck. I'm going to pray for you." Right? Because I told her this guy's politics, he's considered an uncle. He was now considered an Uncle Tom type of dude. Right? But in the 60s, he was radical. My mother said, "Well, based on what you told me, son, it doesn't seem like he'd be the type of guy that would give a guy like you the money." So I was like, wow, my mother doesn't think it's going to work. So, all right, well, I'm going to trust my instinct anyway. Right? So then I got in touch with my father. My father, that nigga ain't gonna give you no money. Yeah, Uncle Ty ain't gonna give you no money. He just cared about himself. So my father didn't support it. Right? I went to my Jegna, Dr. James Turner at Cornell. Man, my heart aches because that brother passed away last year. My heart is still aching behind that loss. But he even said, with his deep voice, "Brother Agyei, I respect your perseverance and your motivation, but I don't think he's going to give you no money." I'm surprised he's trying to give Africana Studies Department money. But his politics, I doubt it, brother. But good luck and tell me how it works out. I told my boy Scott, who was when I was in the master's program, he was in the doctorate program. And Scott had my back all the time. Scott said, "Man, that Negro ain't going to give you no money. He all about say." I doubt it, brother. My wife at the time, the mother of my biological children, says, good luck, but don't sound like he's the type of guy that's going to give you any money, and that's $15,000 is a lot of money. But, good luck. So nobody thought that it was going to work, but everybody wished me good luck. Grand rising to you, Sister Mila, right? So later so I was out shopping because we had friends coming over. We was going to make a little lunch and talk, and they was going to go back to Syracuse where they lived. So on my way back from the supermarket, everybody's so excited, and my wife at the time she says, "Baby, I got to tell you what." I said, "What happened?" So that guy called. He called back. I didn't answer the phone, but he left a message. I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." So I said, "Well, what did he say?" She said, "We didn't listen to the message. We want you to listen to it." So I go, pick up the message. Now, this is the super rich black man who's the CFO of this huge banking system, credit system. He sits on the Federal Reserve boards of different states. And in the 60s, he used to be a radical, militant black student leader who smacked the president of Cornell University in the face, family. He was real like that. But now he had kind of turned his politics. But he was coming to campus. So I hit him up with a proposal for $15,000, which I desperately needed. And I'm waiting to hear. So I listened to his message and I hear his voice. Yes, Mr. Tyehimba, it was a pleasure meeting you very briefly. Thank you for giving me the proposal. He says, I want to tell you, I'm very excited. I will definitely meet you for dinner and you can interview me for your thesis research. So he never mentioned the money. He just said, I grant you the interview. He said, now my schedule's tight. So I'm hoping that we can meet tonight. You can pick the restaurant of your choice in Ithaca, New York. And, we'll chop it up. Ask me whatever you want. I'd be delighted. I'm honored that you would interview me for your research. All right. So I'm happy. I'm jumping around. And then, but the people, my friends that were visiting, asked me what was going on. They said, man, it sounds good, but he didn't mention the money, did he? I said, no. I said, he's probably not going to give you the money, bro. He's going to give you the interview, but he's not going to give you the money. So no one in my life believed that he was going to give you the money. Only one that believed it was me. Why? Because I'm following that instinct. Not logic. A voice said, man, ask him for the money. Right? So now, I call him back. He's staying at a hotel on campus. He gives me a number. I call him back. We set it up. He picks me up, takes me to a nice Italian restaurant. We eat. We spend about an hour and a half eating and just talking generally. And also I'm interviewing him. Right? So it's about an hour and a half. So I'm asking him my questions. I got a tape recorder, and I'm going to use this for my thesis. I'm happy. I'm getting to speak firsthand to a leader of the student movement that I was writing about in my scholarly research. But he didn't raise the issue of that $15,000 one time in this whole discussion. So now we finished eating. He says, brother, he doesn't say brother. He says, young man, would you like anything else to eat? Would you like any dessert? Whatever. Would you like something to take home to your family? And so we square that away. We're getting our coats. He said, is there any way I could take you, or should I just take you back to your home? So I'm like, you can take me back to the home. So then what happens is I'm getting nervous, right? Because he didn't mention this $15,000 grant I asked him for one time, and that I mentioned in this letter I gave him, the proposal. So as we getting up and we're walking out, I'm like, man, he's going to say, that means probably that he rejected, my proposal. Oh, well. So now I'm already thinking about other things to do to get the $15,000, right? So we're walking out. He says, I got to tell you, you're a very enterprising and motivated young man. I see in your proposal you gave me that you got a young wife and 2 little kids, and that you used to be the student leader at Syracuse University, and you did a lot of change at Syracuse University. And Dr. Turner tells me you're an excellent student. And he says, you're right. You remind me a lot of myself. When I was around your age, I had a young family, and I was at Cornell, and I was a radical militant student leader, and we made great change at Cornell, and you did the same thing at Syracuse. He said, so just so you know, I decided I'm going to give you the $15,000. Whoa. I could have jumped through the ceiling of that restaurant. I felt so happy, relieved, and vindicated that I listened to my instinct, and I didn't listen to all the people who love me, who had my back, but they just didn't see it. It's like, nah, that dude ain't gonna give you no $15,000 off the cuff like that. So that man put $15,000 count. I took some of that. I paid off the little bit of student loan I had left at Syracuse University. Took the rest and put some of that into a CD. so that when I finish this, my master's degree, my wife and I, my family at the time, we could move back. We had a nest egg of money to move back home with, and took a little bit out to celebrate and stuff like that. The story here, family, is once again, when you get that voice, and this is my history. This is my little bit of history for Black History Month. I got a billion stories. But the lesson here is, when you get that voice, trust it. Other people may not rock with you. Don't assume it's because they hating on you. Some people just don't get it. Why? Because it's not their intuitive voice. It's your intuitive voice. So only you hear that. They don't hear that. They just hear you talking about, I'm going to write this rich black man who used to be radical and black power. Now he's Uncle Tom. And I'm going to ask him for $15,000. They think you're crazy. And they're right to think that because it doesn't add up. Right? But on the spiritual realm, somebody was talking to you, giving you a message that wasn't for nobody else. So to hell with what they saying, and you follow that voice. Like I said, the only exception is if you want some type of hallucinogenic drug. Don't follow that voice. But if you right and exact, follow your intuition, family. And notice, once I got that voice, I moved with deliberate speed. I moved urgently. You know how people will have this idea and they sit on it and sit on it, right? They sit and sit and sit and they don't move on it. And now the opportunity passed. This man was only in Ithaca, New York for about 2 days. So when I hit him with that proposal, he was leaving the next day, family. If I would have sat on that, who knows, that wouldn't have happened. This was my one time he was there, right? He was there to take care of business and leave. So when I hit him with that proposal, it was on faith. We talk about faith in our community a lot in this Christian paradigm. I want to talk about faith in terms of faith in yourself. Faith in the divine voice that speaks to you, called intuition. Follow it. Trust it. Some of us don't trust ourselves. We think we're unworthy, or I'm not smart enough to do, oh, this person will never agree with this, or I'm not going to present it right, or I don't know how to speak. Well, we come up with all types of excuses to second guess ourselves, and we block our own blessings. But the divine gave us a tool called intuition to speak right to us in our language, because usually it's your voice you hear in your head. Your voice may say, stay away from that person. You better listen, or you're going to get hurt. The voice may say, take that job, take that opportunity, try it. The voice may say, ask her out. See what's up. Don't be scared. The voice may say, go ahead back to school. Go ahead, try it. It's not too late. The voice can say anything, but my thing is, when I've listened to that voice, I have never lost. Not once. When I've lost in my life, it's when I didn't listen to the voice. When fear or ego or thinking with a poverty consciousness got in the way, or being insecure got in the way. But when I listen to that intuition, it always panned out, family. So I don't want to go on and on and on, but I want to tell you, that's the story. I needed $15,000. I was in Africana Studies going for my master's degree at Cornell University. I had a young family, a wife, and 2 little bitty kids. And I didn't know how I was going to come up with the money. And when I read this paper and saw that this rich black man was coming to visit Cornell University, that used to be a student leader at Cornell University in the 60s, who I was writing about. And it was unbelievable how that all just came together. And that voice said, you better ask him. I remember the voice was like that. It was like me saying to myself, you better hit that man up for some money. Forget about your ego and your pride. He'll give it to you. And I just had a confidence. And I moved with confidence. Once I heard the voice, what did I tell you? I didn't second guess. I started writing up a proposal right on the spot. Gave it to that man, and what? That same night, takes me out to a nice dinner. Got some stuff to bring back to my family. And he tells me, you remind me of me when I was young. And I think he felt a little bit ashamed. He felt guilty. that he didn't stay. He didn't, like my other Jagna, Khalid Muhammad, he didn't hold the line of nationalism, that he fell away. He got caught up in corporate. He got all this money with the white man. I think he lost his way. And I think he felt, damn, this young dude is kind of like me. He seems like he's staying the path. And I think that hit him. I think that touched him, you know? But I got that $15,000, man. So just take that with y'all, family. I know it's not no big famous Black History moment, but it's a part of my history, and it's something that I always remember. Take that, family. Trust your intuition, and when you get that voice that's directing you, move with urgency. Don't delay. That's all I gotta say. I hope it's been helpful, and you know how I'm gonna end it. If we trust our intuition, and we study our history, and we work together, and we make sure we collaborate with like-valued African people, and we form important strategic alliances, and we pool our resources, and we make sure we don't deal with the race traders, huh? Family, 3 words. We will win. Peace, Black Power, family. Thank you for listening, man. You have a blessed day and week. Peace.